class rookie, Ryan Dungey. Now, as we enter the heart of the season, we will find out if anyone has what it takes to stop this runaway train. Or will Ryan Dungey continue his march all the way to the championship? It all happens next here in Lakewood, Colorado at the Toyota Trucks Thunder Valley Nationals. Just outside the mile-high city of Denver, Colorado for round 5 of the Lucas Oil AMA Pro Motocross Championship. It's the Toyota Trucks Thunder Valley National. Hello everyone, Jason Wygant, joined by 4-time AMA National Champion David Bailey. Traditionally, we run this race in Colorado under the lights at night, but today they switched back to the old daytime format. But the elevation is still here, so daytime and elevation combined, what does that mean for the riders on the bikes?
Tougher. Yep. It's going to be hotter for the riders. The hydration's real important. They're going to be breathing harder. You know, if you just go and fog up a mirror, that's water. So these guys are going to have to stay hydrated, get a good start, so they have to work so hard. Because you can adjust the motorcycles. They'll be slower, but you can do things. You can't do that much to the riders, so it's going to be a real challenge.
Now, the real challenge in this 450 class is catching Ryan Dungey, who's won 3 of the last 4 races. So, David, what is it going to take to knock this guy back a bit?
Well, I watched him in practice, and he looks good. Business as usual. He comes by, momentum, looks good, good lines, changing it up. Bike sounds good. So the only way you can do it is to really go out there and just rough him up. If it was baseball, where do they pitch you? Up and in. Back him up, man. You gotta attack this guy. And at the very end of practice, Chad Reed laid down the fastest lap right there at the end, just to kind of assert himself and go, look, man, I got a #1 plate, and it belongs to me. His work starts today. Let's give you the idea of the test these riders face today with our 4-1-1 of Lucas Oil AMA Pro Motocross. We'll run 2 30-minute plus 2-lap motos today with 40 riders each. And at the end of the day, we'll calculate the scores of both of those races and determine an overall winner. That's how we do it here in Colorado. Already have moto #1 in the books. And let's show you the highlights of that one. Dungey almost gets the whole shot, but he'd be edged out by Colorado's own Andrew Short. That's where Short wants to be, up front. It's all looking good for a little while, and starting to drop Dungey, so showing good speed out front. Dungey being challenged by the 33 of Josh Grant, and then Short goes down and drops from first all the way back to 12th. The heartbreaker for the home state boy. Even worse luck for Jake Moss, who was just back on the tour after an injury, and he goes off the track and hurts himself. Even worse here. Unfortunate for the Rockstar Suzuki rider. Now watch this pass for the lead. Josh Grant going for it around this fast sweeper. 1% faster and his bike would have drifted over that berm. Look how aggressive that move was, and that's what it took. Dungey looks over and goes, well, if you want it that bad, you can have it. What'd you say at the top of the show? You got to attack Dungey? That's what Josh Grant did. Look at this battle for third. Tommy Hahn going to muscle his Rockstar Suzuki to the inside of Brett Metcalfe's Geico Honda to get third place spot. He's riding with a dislocated shoulder. Unbelievable ride for Hahn. And here's some more muscle. Kyle Regal, Dan Reardon hit once, hit twice, 3 times. Regal's going to take the spot. That's the battle for 9th. Doesn't matter what position you're on, Lucas Oil AMA Pro Motocross, they're pushing it. Good job for Josh Grant. I'd say it's great. He wins the first moto, takes it to Ryan Dungey straight up. And we'll see if he can capitalize on this momentum and do it again in Moto 2 and take the overall. Here are the results. Not only a surprise to see Grant winning his first moto of the year, but even bigger surprise, Chad Reed in 10th. Andrew Short after that crash was 8th, and Mike Alessi not even in the top 10. Let's send it down to the third member of our broadcast team, Aaron Bates with the Progressive pre-race report.
Every rider has their own opinion of showing up early to try to get themselves acclimated here at the High Mile City is a good idea. Mike Alessi came directly from Budds Creek straight here. He's been riding, testing, and training. His main focus this week has been on corner speed. This afternoon, his mechanic added a larger sprocket. They need a little more bottom end power to try to get that 350 SXF up the uphill start. But I just spoke with Mike Alessi, and he said it was a mistake that cost him in that first moto, finishing up at 12th place. He said he's sick to his stomach right now, and the goal is just to get this day over and done.
Oh, man, went down there and chatted with Mike. He's definitely a little bit under the weather here. Let's talk about Chad Reed, a rough go of it in the first moto. What's his Rocky Mountain ATV-MC keys to the race,
Well, pretty simple. I mean, the start's a given, but real important for Chad, especially you saw the water being put down. He doesn't want to get roosted again. Don't wait to get comfortable. Sprint from the get-go, and the way to do that is to find some better lines. He was struggling that first moto. And here's the track that Reed will try to do some damage on.
Uphill start into a nice, safe, sweeping first corner. You drop down, then the long climb up to the very top, highest point of the track. Then a sketchy downhill full of some really tough braking bumps. More braking bumps right there. A lot of ruts right here. Real difficult to pick your lines through there. And then the big, long sweeper, the carousel into a tight chicane. Really fun jump. And then cross by the mechanics to get your signal. And that sweeper, before you come back up to start, is real important to carry momentum. If you don't get a good run out of there, you really lose time going up that hill.
Now, Aaron mentioned acclimating to the elevation, David, but you can't really do that in a couple of days, can you?
You know, whatever you got to tell yourself.
Okay, all right.
That's how that works. But
Mind
no,
over matter.
No, but technically, unless you're here for a month, you really can't do that much. You know, you can come up here and get used to the surroundings and, you know, get used to your mouth being dry, things like that. But pretty much just drink a lot of water and be tough.
Gonna have to be. As we mentioned at the top of the show, we're not running under the lights this year, and what that allows them to do is make the bumps and jumps bigger because they don't have to worry about big shadows. We've got perfect daylight and perfect weather. Let's go racing! And it's almost a replay of the first moto with Andrew Short edging out. Oh, a big pile up in the first turn. Cunningham, who was 5th in Moto 1, is down. Josh Grant, our Moto 1 winner, is down. And Dan Reardon as well. So Andrew Short's got the lead. Ryan Dungey is 2nd. And look at Josh Grant, 1st in the first Moto, dead last in Moto 2. There's his dad on the right side of the track screaming. Oh, man.
Well, if you thought he was fast in the first Moto, he was going to be really going fast. This time, Dungey jumping really close to the edge of the track. That'll get your heart rate up a little bit. Another opportunity for Short, and you saw him between motos. How was that looking?
He said, hey, I don't want to talk about it. That was the report from Andrew Short after leading and then falling out. Oh, no. Chad Reed gets buried under Brett Metcalfe. And a bunch of riders got slowed up there. Kyle Regal as well. So this first lap has been torture for some of our top riders. Reed, Grant, taking advantage of Short, Dungey, 1 and 2.
Well, Dungey up there where he needs to be. But, boy, the motivation from Short to erase that mistake from the first moto, the motivation from Grant right now, the motivation, the frustration from Chad Reed. And this is going to be a real interesting moto in the last 10 minutes.
And let's not forget the rider in 3rd, Ben Townley, who has had speed all season long. He just seems to have bad luck at every turn. Now he's got himself a great opportunity in 3rd, the man from New Zealand. Missed racing for 2 straight years with a shoulder injury that wouldn't heal. He's finally back to 100%. He's got the speed back. We're waiting for the results.
And he was a little peeved after the first moto as well, making some mistakes. So a lot of motivation from everybody, and that just makes for great racing. And Andrew, it looked like he was just checking out and was going to win, just like what Josh Grant did to Ryan Dungey. It looked like Short was pretty early in the moto, but still. And he looked like he was on his way, and here he has another opportunity to do the same thing. And he's proven in himself he can win a moto, carried all the way to the checkered flag just in the last round at Budds Creek, so see if he can do it here. And I don't know. If I had to bet right now, it's tough to get a bet against Dungey or Townley. Both those guys are really solid and might believe they can win a moto more than Andrew does, but that's why we line them up.
Hey, that's been the buzz on Short. The last 2 weeks, he's led that second moto, and they got worn down. A lot of people say it's just mental fatigue, that pressure being applied. Let's go back and get your progressive whole shot replay, and we'll show you what happened to Josh Grant on the 33. That essentially might cost him the overall today.
Josh way over on the left of the screen, comes into the corner, there's nowhere to go. He gets pinched a little bit, then he finds an opening, and then the front wheel tucks, and he does a complete flip. That's just, only Josh Grant could do that. You know, that reminds me of that Mount Morris deal last year. We did a big flip, the bike wandered along and ran into a car. It's not funny, it is it's hard not to chuckle a little bit. I'm glad that he flipped over and landed that way, so he didn't get run over by anybody.
Yeah, but he really didn't hit anyone in that first turn. I'm surprised it worked out that way. Look at the lines there as they try to avoid those big holes. And Townley on the 101 in 3rd, sticking with Dungey. Last couple weeks, sorry, Dave, been Short and Dungey battling for the moto win. Townley wants a piece of that.
All 3 of these guys are capable of winning. Every one of these, and they all feel like, okay, no sense getting all nervous just yet. If anybody's nervous, it'd be Andrew, because he's the one that's got it and can lose it. Dungey, points-wise, he's looking at the war as much as the battle, and he's looking good there. Townley's going, hey, finally I get back up here and I want to blow it again. You know, so there's, like I said before, there's a lot of motivation, a lot going on in their heads, and being such a head game sport, you know, it's really hard to say what's going to happen. Regal back there in fourth is proven in Texas he can run up with these guys. He's getting another opportunity to do that and work his way up the ladder a little higher.
All right, Dungey going to work on short now. Okay, last 2 weeks, Dungey was in this position and was able to get the better of him. Can you erase the memory for Andrew Short, or you're like, oh no, here he is again?
Well, I don't think Andrew's too worried about the past. He's just thinking about the moment and going, man, I wish I could gap this guy.
Yeah.
You know, when you're riding as hard as you can, and I know that he's going for it right now. He's not holding back. And you're getting pressured. And it starts to erode your belief that you can just do it. You know, in the first moto, he was getting away. This time, he's not. Dungey's had an opportunity to get second the first moto and wants to win this one and get the overall. He doesn't have to beat Short to do it, but you know he's going to be aggressive and want to get a moto win. So that's, you know, I don't know if I answered your question very good, but that's what's so great about this sport. Man, from lap to lap, it can change drastically. We saw how fast it changed for Josh Grant.
They're all closing in. Dungey now right behind Short. Townley not too far behind Dungey, and then Regal and Metcalfe fourth and fifth, not too far back either. Setting ourselves up for some great racing. You see the countdown clock at the top of the screen. 25 minutes and 2 laps left, so a lot can happen, especially with this track changing so quickly.
Judging from Dungey's posture and his aggression and everything and his pace, it looks to me like he's not in any way comfortable and trying to settle for anything and looking at the war that much in this moment. It looks to me like he's really trying to keep the pressure on Andrew and get a win here.
Well, we've got a perfect setup for a great race here in Colorado. Andrew Short, Ryan Dungey, and Ben Townley all over him. Lots of fun things to see and do here in Colorado. Stay with us.
When it's time to get ready to ride and you need gear, it's time to go to RockyMountainMC.com. With the largest selection of dirt bike parts, apparel, and accessories, we have what you need at deep discounts. We have a huge state-of-the-art facility that ensures your order ships out quickly with accuracy that's second to none. Most items ship free and arrive at your door in 3 days or less. Visit our industry-leading website, RockyMountainMC.com today for the best prices, quickest shipping, online support, and largest in-stock selection around. RockyMountainMC.com. Get ready.
Hey, I'm Josh Grant, taking the Toyota 4Runner on an AMA.
Welcome back here. Ryan Dungey is all over Andrew Short. And Ben Townley trying to stick with him in third. Different lines for Dungey. So far, not able to make the pass.
Trying to stay out of the roost as well. That's coming off that rear tire of Short's bike. Like rocks out of a fast pitch, just nailing you. It's hard to focus, so you know there's a lot of lines. There's one really fast one, and Dungey's got to think about where he can go to stay out of that roost some of the time. Whoa, foot getting ripped off the peg. You got to be on your toes on the peg, because if you scoot your feet forward to the arches, your toe hangs out the front, and your bike sags down to those ruts and rips your feet off the peg like just happened there.
Dungey on the inside again. Here we go, side by side. No contact. Short's got to try to fight back. He couldn't clear the double, and just like that, Ryan Dungey's in the lead.
You see Dungey, just in his body language, he just looked like, okay, I want this. You know, I'm faster than Short. I've been beating Short, and I'm going to beat him. That's just the way it is. Because he could probably sense that Townley's back there trying to make amends in this moto.
Yeah, Townley is there in third, and then another battle. Privateer Honda, Kyle Regal, help from Merge Racing, and then the Geico Power Sports Honda with some factory support. That's Brett Metcalfe, fifth. And Regal, who is so spectacular in the second round in Texas, then hit his head pretty hard at round 3, practice at High Point. So the last 2 races have been good for Regal, but he's apparently back to 100% today.
Yeah, this isn't some home track deal. This is just, he's good. He's really good.
And he got the man third in the first moto, 6th here in Moto 2. Tommy Hunt riding with a dislocated shoulder suffered last week. Told me today it's only pain. I can deal with that. He's dealing with it quite well, third in Moto 1 and catching these leaders here in Moto 2. He's the fastest man on the track.
Now Dungey looks like he's checking out just a little bit. This battle for second is just bam, 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 one right after the other. Great race so far.
All right, so what is Townley thinking? He sees that Dungey's going to put in a sprint. He's got to do what he can to get around short and go for it.
Yep, that's why you train. Don't hold back at all. If you take a face full of roost, so be it. Just keep gassing it. And he saw how Dungey was able to make his move, so we'll see if he can do the same thing. You know, that was right where Short had his problem in the first moto, at the approach to it, over that step up. And maybe he's a little shy right through there or something, and see if I were Townley rather, I would really make an effort to stay close to him right there and keep the pressure on it. All these guys are closing up.
In top 6, wheel to wheel, with Tommy Hahn of the Rockstar Suzuki at the back of that train. Then it's Metcalfe and Regal. Metcalfe going after Regal right here. And Townley going after Short. Townley around the outside, and Regal around the outside. There was no rut or burn for Regal to use, and he still almost got it.
And Short got passed again. So Townley followed the same thing that Dungey did, and it worked. I can't believe Short allowed that.
Short to the inside, too late. Townley's in the second. See if he can put his head down and go after the leader. But he's going to have to work, because look at this battle. Hahn side by side with Regal now. Tremendous racing here at Thunder Valley. Whose line's better? Oh, obviously Hahn's. Didn't work out for Regal at all.
And
Alessi goes by. That'll move him up to 6th.
Kept it running. I'm sure Regal, he'd love a do-over right there. He just didn't lean in enough. He was carrying so much speed in that battle, that pressure, he had to go in there faster and just wasn't laid over.
And now he's got the 55 of Kyle Chisholm on the Moto Concepts Yamaha right behind him. Take us through this, David.
Yeah, he's just in a battle. He's in a hurry. He's trying to beat Hahn to this berm, but he didn't lay it over enough for the extra speed he carried in. And that berm that had a little hook in it right there, just a little bit more, and as soon as it compressed and rebounded, he just was like, oh, man.
Now, maybe you saw last time around, Dungey just ran a 2:11. That's the fastest lap of the race. Short trying to stay with Townley as Townley tries to stay with Dungey. Dungey's putting the hammer down. This could be a private duel for second if they can't keep the number 5 Suzuki in sight. How about Short, though, showing some fight? Not letting Townley have it.
He just blew that corner again. I think he was thinking a little bit, going, okay, I can't mess that up again. I can't mess that up again. And he messed it up again. And Townley was leaning on him through there. So it's not that Short blew it so much as that Townley really forced the issue right there. And he wants the win. He's not happy where he's at. He wants to catch Dungey. You can see Dungey down there just disappearing out of the picture. And for these guys to be capable of winning and mess up and see Dungey up there, and then Dungey's leading this again, you're just like, oh, you just hate the guy.
Yeah.
You know, because he's taking money out of your wallet. He wants what you have, and wants what you want, and he's getting it and you're not. That's just, I've been there. It's frustrating. And sometimes you over-try and mess up more, and the guy wins by even an easier margin.
Well, that's what happened to our first moto winner. Josh Grant goes down to turn 1. Chad Reed goes down a few corners later. They're more frustrated than ever. Go back to this battle. Townley, Short, Metcalfe, Tommy Hahn. Well, he saw that Rockstar banner there. He's part of the team. You don't want to go that close.
That's a good effort. You know, hey, that's frustrating, though.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously had the speed. Considering how well he rode with the first moto, he was trying to make a pass. That's going to drop him, I would think, outside the top 10 now.
I was going to say, it's going to be hard to get back on the track.
So now we're down to Short versus Metcalfe. And with all this racing, we're suddenly near the halfway point of this moto. It's going fast when we got this much to watch.
You know what? And I can relate to this, having raced plenty. If Short could have jarred up that frustration and that anger and that motivation that he had moments after the checkered flag in the first moto and kept it, that's what he needs right now, that fight.
Well, he's going to need it because the pressure being applied by Brett Metcalfe. You got the factory Honda and the factory connection Honda duking it out for third as Townley goes after the leader, Ryan Dungey. Stay tuned. For parts, apparel, and accessories. Get ready. It's Red Rocks not far away from our track here in Lakewood, Colorado. That's one of the most storied concert venues in the world, great acoustics, but I'll tell you what sounds good as well? 4 wins in a row, and that's what Ryan Dungey could be closing in on right now. He's got an 8.3-second lead over Ben Townley. We're halfway through this moto. Townley is riding as hard as he possibly can, but Dungey is still running 2:11 lap times and pulling away.
He's pumping the track really well, generating speed, hopping over bumps. Lines are coming together. Look at the lead. And the more that happens, the more he can relax a little and probably ride even better. Where Townley is a little more desperate, going, come on, get up there, and then you make a little mistake and you lose everything you just gained, and then the gap widens even more. So Dungey just really forcing the issue here, making everyone try so hard, they're messing up.
Metcalfe is in 4th, and then you got to look at the KTM Mike Alessi in 5th. Alessi, a tough first moto, outside the top 10, but trying to salvage something here at Moto 2. There's Medi, who is 3rd in points actually coming into this race. He's been very consistent this year. Let's see what Alessi can do. Hit the reset button after a bad first moto. Much better this time.
In practice, coming over that jump, the wind kicked up, just a weird gust, and it blew the banners across the track. It wrapped around his neck and yanked him off the bike. He just stood there like, come on. It's been kind of one of those days. He's trying, though.
Here's Kyle Regal, who went down earlier, battling it out with Tommy Hahn, and quickly got himself back up, and he's running a very fast pace, and that's hard to do when you crash. You pick it right back up and go as fast as you work.
Yeah, that was a nice recovery. And, it just kind of shows when you get back up and start riding that hard, it shows that he belonged up there, and he feels like he can get back to there. It's still early in the race.
And we got Kyle Chisholm on the Moto Concepts Yamaha. Back in January when Supercross began, this guy didn't have a ride. He told me, I'll put my bike in a pickup and ride Anaheim if I need to. And he quickly established himself, picked up the Moto Concepts ride. He's ridden pretty well in the top 10 so far this summer. And now we finally see Chad Reed, who was down on the first lap. Just another rough day for Chad Reed, 8th place.
Just going to comment on how nice he transitioned to that big berm down there. Just beautiful, and then he messed up the exit kind of, so just a little off balance today. And I don't know that he was really ever done that great here. I don't think he likes this place that much.
Tommy Hahn is in the pits. Remember, he dislocated his shoulder last week in Maryland, but they're carrying him off. I've got to think that's a lower body injury. Aaron Bates, what do you have?
Well, guys, I just asked Tommy Hahn if we could grab a word from him, but apparently he just mentioned that he's got a broken leg, and riders know their bodies well enough to know the situation that's taking place, but as you're witnessing, he was just sat on the back of the mule. The Asterix medical team is taking good care of him. They'll observe him, take him back, and make sure everything's okay.
Oh, that is terrible. His best ride of the season in the first moto where he got 3rd. And his brother Will is actually out with a shoulder injury. Tommy came in with a shoulder injury of his own, toughed it out, and his reward for toughing it out, even more pain. Wow.
Motocross can be like this awesome ballet or just brutal.
We're going to show you what happened to Chad Reed earlier in this race. Just stuffs it into this berm. Take us through it, David.
Well, there's a million braking bumps, a lot of riders in front of him, and Metcalfe messing up and pausing a little bit, and Chad was already committed with his foot off the brakes. He had his foot out already and just thought he could squeeze through there, couldn't quite do it. Regal fit through there. That kid is really starting to show some muscle, man.
Yeah. I was going to say, think of where Reed would have been in the order. He was passing Metcalfe, who is now in 4th.
But here's something that Chad could think about. He's pretty far behind in the points right now, but and it's getting worse. But
yeah.
I think last year after this, I think Chad was like, over it. Why did I say I was coming back to the outdoors? I did an interview. I'm happy. I'm glad to be back. And I think after this round last year, I'm just speculating, but he was like, maybe I'm not as into it as I thought. But he came back and won the championship. He's got to remember that and just stay in the fight,
I'll talk about some memories here from last year. Mike Alessi came into this race 14 days out of a broken kneecap and tried to race this event last year to salvage some points. Had a big run-in, very high profile, with his old rival, Josh Grant. And we'll take you through what happened there. Very, very, very dark days for Mike Alessi here last year. Grant versus Alessi, and we'll never forget how it turned out there. Josh Grant effectively ended Mike Alessi's season. They're both back this year, but they're back in the pack too. Stay tuned.
It was a 3-wide thrill.
Lucas Oil AMA Pro Motocross Championship, Colorado. Our first moto winner, Josh Grant, dead last off the start. The second moto, he's already up to 11th. Before we went to break, showed you what happened last year between Josh Grant and Mike Alessi. Let's talk to these guys about exactly how it went down. And here comes Grant right by him. Oh, he takes it down! That is the worst case scenario for Mike. Can he even get up? Can he even stand on that bad leg?
Yeah, Colorado last year, I mean, there was a lot of drama that went on between me and Mike, but I mean, it was a racing incident, and I wanted to make the pass. He's a hard guy to get around, so I was like, all right, this is my only opportunity to really do it, and so I took my own line that, went across his, and we ended up hitting, and he ended up going down, and I almost crashed at the same time, so it was like, I wouldn't want to take us both out, and I was in the hunt for the championship also.
You know what, there's a thing you gotta forgive and forget. I mean, it was a racing incident when you look at it. It was a racing incident, but you know what, I'm not gonna hold it against him because I'm not that kind of person where I'm gonna live in the past, you know what I mean? But I definitely will think twice when I know he's behind me, and if he's there, I'm gonna know, okay, this guy's gonna be doing a little bit of dirtiness, so I know that my inside line's gotta be protected. So he's just one of those riders where you have to be more aware when he's behind you. That's pretty much plain and simple.
Well, the history between those two goes back much further than just this race last year. They grew up racing against each other in Southern California. I don't think their dads get along very well, and rivals seem to find each other like that.
And as unfortunate as it was to kind of end Mike's season, it was a prayer to try to race with that broken kneecap. And I think Mike and his dad took a lot of heat for it, but you got to try. And, I'm sure Josh can appreciate that. But I like the fact that you got two guys that want it bad, and they're willing to run into each other. I mean, we saw Regal and Reardon bumping into each other a lot the first moto, and that's cool. It's unfortunate when one guy goes down, but it's racing, and it's cool that Mike has decided to go, hey, let me take the high road and just cover the inside from now on. It's mature.
Andrew Short might need to cover the insides as well. He still has Brett Metcalfe in striking distance. Metcalfe fourth, Short third. Second is Townley, and your leader continues to be Ryan Dungey. Dungey has pulled out to a 14-second lead over Townley, although this still will be Townley's best performance since returning to the Tour. Hasn't really raced since 2007. Let's check out Metcalfe here. Great season for Metcalfe so far on the big bike.
He looks great. He's always had all the skill, just weird luck, and maybe in the smaller class, just perhaps touch too long. Sometimes that can kind of stunt your growth. And as soon as he got on his 450, I think his first race ever on it out of Glen Helen or something, he won. And it's been real impressive so far. And he was all over Short there for a bit, and Short was like, look, man, I cannot let another guy by. And, I talked about before we went to break a little while ago that Short, if you could just stay, anyone that races knows when you don't have a moto you're happy with, you want the next moto to be right then. Give me some goggles, let's go again. But that hour or so goes by, and some of that anger and frustration fades. And boy, Short needed some of that when Dungey and Townley were back on, right there.
He's not that far in back at Townley, but it's just far enough where he's going to worry about Metcalfe more than he can think about the rider in front of him as Dungey continues to pull away. Stay with us. In motorcycle insurance. At the state capitol here in Colorado. And back to the Lucas Oil AMA Pro Motocross Championship. Ryan Dungey pulling away from the field, looking for his fourth straight win, and that'd be 4 wins in 5 rounds this year. Josh Grant took it to Ryan Dungey, straight up beat him in the first moto, and then went down in the first turn here. How frustrating is that for these guys? Everything that Dungey does seems to work out, and every time there's even a glimmer of hope for someone else, they throw it away. When's Dungey going to make the mistake?
Well, as long as this keeps happening, he'd be a whole lot less prone to it because he's so much more relaxed and confident and believes in himself a lot more, And early in the Supercross season this year, when he was having some good fortune on the big bike, he was just as vulnerable as these other guys have been lately, but now he's had so much good starts and putting himself in. You always hear Chad Reed, I put myself in a good position. He hasn't been doing that lately. Dungey's been doing that for such a long time, injury-free, that this is the result of that. But, things flip-flop fast, and you know, Dungey, like I said, you know, at the top of the show, you got to enjoy, or I talked about the internet part, you got to enjoy this string of good finishes, and every time there's a championship in front of him, he wins it. They go to the Motocross of Nations, he kind of anchors and helps win that. Goose has been there before, so is DeCoster, he's got Ricky helping him, it's all good.
And Aaron is down with Goose, who's been there before. Aaron, what's happening in the pits?
Well, Mike, you guys didn't change up anything as far as the bike setting goes in between motos, but you did give him some advice about line choice. What was it that you said to him?
Well, Grant had better lines the first moto, and I think Ryan was just losing touch with him like a second, 2 seconds a lap. So we kind of told him where Grant's lines were. Seems to be working for him.
You're busy as a mechanic down here, so who is it that's watching those line choices? Is it team manager Roger DeCoster up in the tower?
Yeah, we have Roger, Ian, Ray's out there, Doug's out there, Lee's out there. We got a bunch of guys spying on everybody.
So far, so good. Good luck to you guys.
See the mood, you know, there's smiles, it's fun. This bike basically won the championship last year underneath Chad Reed. So now the equipment is there, his starts are good, he trains, he's one of the few guys in the sport nowadays at the top that runs. I've always maintained that makes you tough. And you know, he doesn't really need a trainer, he's self-motivated, and while he may not be some phenomenon like Stewart or Reed, or Ricky Carmichael, he's good enough for the time being and building momentum. He may turn into one of those guys before long.
Well, he's still only 20 years old, so there's a long time to keep wrapping up more wins and championships the way he's going. Let's check out Ben Townley here. Now, back in 2007, Townley was racing the 250 class against Dungey, and he and his teammate Ryan Villopoto, they had Dungey covered. And a couple months ago, I talked to Ben Townley about that. He said, yeah, don't remind me of the fact that Villopoto and Dungey have been getting better for the last 2 years, and I've been sitting on the couch. And that's the difference today. He's close, but not quite close enough to keep the pressure on the number 5. Let's go back to the 29 and the 24, duking it out for third. That's Short and Metcalfe. Pretty cool, he got 3 different Honda teams here, second, third, and fourth. 3 different approaches to racing, and it all works out about the same on the track.
Yeah, that new Honda made a complete change, and it was a little tough for the guys to adapt to, but they certainly have worked out the kinks and got a lot of guys on Hondas up front. And you know, Short just cannot relax with Metcalfe back there, and their pace is keeping them pretty close to Townley. So this second, third, fourth battle is still close.
Well, you got to wonder if Short does have an advantage racing out here in Colorado where he was born and raised. We had a chance to talk to him about that earlier today.
This race in Colorado is really special for me just because I grew up here, I know it, have lots of family and friends, and great memories. So I always love coming back here. I definitely feel the support from the fans, and that makes a big difference.
Well, Short, when the pressure's been applied so far this year, he's lost a bunch of spots. So even if he doesn't hold on to win the Moto, if he at least wins one battle with Metcalfe, maybe that could be a little bit of a boost. Because last week he went all the way back to 6th after leading in the second Moto. This time he is in 3rd. Not going to be easy to hold it though. He's still got Metcalfe behind him. But on a good note, he's got Townley not too far in front of him. Stay tuned here on Speed. Dungey still leads the way. Watching Chad Reed here, got the number 1 plate on the bike, but not the results he wants today. You talked about the Rocky Mountain keys to the race, David. Let's review Chad's performance.
Well, he had a start. He wasn't waiting. He went into that corner where that big jam up occurred in a big hurry, but it was a bad luck deal. It was a racing thing. He thought he could sneak through there. There wasn't room. He went down, and his lines are better. He looks faster. His body English, body language he's more aggressive than the first moto, but you know, having to come from behind again, it's just a heartbreaker. He's ridden enough, he's been the champion enough, he's got that number 1 plate. It's just frustrating to be back here. Looking at Kyle Regal again, going, can somebody get me around in front of this guy? I'm sick of Kyle Regal right now. You know, it's just frustrating, but this is one of those days where you try your best to limit the damage, and you go home, you spend some time with your wife and your new son, Tate. And, you know, motocross isn't everything. And for Ryan Dungey right now, it seems like it is. It's all going perfect. You got to enjoy it, man, because it can change.
Look how far the lap time has dropped off for Dungey, 6 seconds slower than he was earlier in the race. That's a byproduct of having that big of a lead over Townley and Short. He can back it down, and that's like you said. That's going to minimize the chance of him making mistakes and giving points back, because when you have a big lead like this,
Yeah, he can relax. He saw that guy down in the corner there, the lap rider, and decided, okay, well, let me just slow it up a little bit and tuck around him, and didn't really lose much time. He's got a new little sneaky line right there around the inside. And it's just working for him. Reminds me a lot of when Carmichael was dominating so much. You know, you get a little lead and then start kind of experimenting and messing around, hopping over holes and find some cool mushy berm on the outside, stay out of some tricky rut, and just pull away even more with seemingly less effort. You know, and that's seems to be the season that Ryan Dungey's in right now. Look at that, just we're up. No problem.
There, yeah. And as you mentioned there, just got those lines dialed in. And it's hard because this track changes so much. We had a couple angles where we saw with that camera low in the berm how much the berms push out each lap. So is that what leads to that experimentation? You almost have to do it?
Yeah, you know, when you ride a lot, you live and breathe it, you get on a little bit of a roll, you just seem to find everything before everybody else.
They get everything right except the spill. Attitude. Have attitude in the altitude. A good attitude, Ryan Dungey has it dialed in. And by the way, they have EFI on these bikes now. Last year he was in the 250 class, and they were running a carburetor on the bikes. This year they move up to the 450, which is fuel injected. And all the mechanics say that makes life a lot easier on them. Yeah. But they're still experimenting. They go down to the pits actually in between laps of practice and reprogram those to try to get the right setup.
Yeah, they'll pull them off the track in the middle of practice and fiddle with it. Try to see if they can move the power around a little bit. And I think it's pretty unanimous today. The bikes just off the bottom, they're slow, so they go up a bigger rear sprocket. They add a tooth. I figured they just go up a tooth, but in some cases guys are going up 3 teeth, mainly for the start. In a tight corner like he's approaching right here. But, you know, I was thinking back, I don't remember exactly all the results, but Dungey hasn't had the best luck here at this track. So this is a major turnaround for him.
Yeah, that's the way it's going right now. Also some teams over the other tricks we heard. Taking some weight off of the flywheel, just trying to make the bike at least feel like it's snappy, even though it won't have the same amount of horsepower. Just try to trick yourself.
Yeah, and you can also, you know, sometimes a little bit smaller rear tire, so you don't have so much bite that drags power out of the engine.
So Townley's going to be the first one to catch him.
I've been away from it a little bit from a mechanical standpoint, and so I'm not really an expert in that area, but, you know, the basics. Of course, you want to get that power where the rider wants it, where it's usable, and you know, fiddle with the gearing. I mean, those right there are real important. But even if you miss that a little bit, the rider can make up for it. That's what I like about motocross. In car racing, it's a lot car, not so much rider. In this sport, you can be a little off with your setup, but if you want it bad and you're riding well, you can make up for it.
Yeah, it's certainly as much man as it is machine, if not more. And that's what Ryan Dungey's done. He just keeps on working on his fitness, and sometimes it gets kind of boring. The guy keeps talking about the same stuff over and over, but working on the same things over and over and over has allowed him to get to this level. The reason he's got the red numbers on his bike, that's because he's the series points leader, and that lead's only going to be bigger and bigger after this. He's looking at 4 in a row. Ryan Dungey takes the Toyota Trucks National here at Lakewood, Colorado. Unbelievable run for Dungey.
Stroke laps, he's sliding it.
Welcome back to Colorado, where Ryan Dungey has conquered the mountain over a mile high here. But when you train as hard as that kid does, probably felt like it was maybe a hill instead of a mountain. Let's take it to the Geico moment of the race. This is how Dungey got the lead from Andrew Short. David Bailey.
Short approaching the section where he messed up in the first moto, goes wide, leaves the door open, and Dungey is just too good for that. He's going to take it from you.
And not only is that an instant replay of the past, but even worse for Short, that's a replay of how the second moto has worked out the last 3 races and allowed Ryan Dungey to win. Let's go down to Aaron with him.
Well, for a rookie, the win streak just seems to continue. And Ryan, it doesn't look as though you had to make too much of an effort on that one. What is it like coming back here to a place where really you haven't had that much success in the past?
It's been tough, you know, to know that it's hard, but the past is the past. You got to move forward, and today we had a great day. You know, I think we made some adjustments, had to find a little bit of fine-tuning, but got to give it up to the team. They did an awesome job on the track, and the second moto felt a lot better.
Before you went out for that second moto, both Mike Gosselaar and Roger DeCoster had a talk with you regarding line choices. How much did that help you out as a rider?
Big, you know, because if you stick in the same line, that ain't working. I mean, you know if it's working or not. So
just try to, you know, check it out, see what's better, see if there's something open, and that's what we did. You know, I think we, you know, got off to a great start, which was key. And, you know, congrats to everybody else, and good job on the track today, and all you guys on TV watching. Thanks.
Speaking of the track, how much did it change from the first moto to the second moto?
I was surprised today, actually, a little bit, because they let the track get rough, a lot rougher, and which is good. You know, it brings out the riders of the sport, and I think, you know, it'll be awesome.
Let's give you your Toyota moving forward schedule. Next week, we will be at Red Bud in Buchanan, Michigan. NBC Sports will have the coverage of that one live at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Then we'll go to Millville, Minnesota. The infamous Sand Whoops and the Whoop Monster will be greeting the riders on speed at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Then we go to Washougal and then Unadilla. Keep us tuned in all year long. Back to talk to more riders up on the podium, more guys who are trying to figure out how to beat this guy, Ryan Dungey, who won today in Colorado. We're not too far from downtown Denver, Colorado, here at Lakewood. The highway runs right by this place. Great access, but really the fans aren't concerned with getting out. They want to get into the podium and get some swag from our top riders. And how did those riders get to the podium themselves? Let's show you with our Lucas Oil race recap. Josh Grant goes flipping right off the start. He was the first moto winner, so scratch him from overall contention. Andrew Short's in the lead. He's the home track guy. There's Chad Reed going down, so scratch him for contention in this one also. Watch Kyle Riegel battling it out with Tommy Hahn. Tips over in a berm, but later on Tommy Hahn would have a little bit worse luck. Watch Hahn on the outside here. Washes out the front end. So that leaves Short versus Dungey for the lead. Short leaves the door open. Dungey says, I'll just walk right through that one. Thanks, Andrew. Ryan Dungey into the lead, and with Grant, the man who beat him in the first moto way back, there was no one left to stop him. Ryan Dungey wins. That's 4 straight overalls. Give you the results here in the second moto. Shout out to the privateer Kyle Riegel, who holds off the defending series champ Chad Reed, costing Reed a few more points. But a big story, the big comeback, now all the way up to the podium for Ben Townley. Let's go down to Aaron Bates.
Ben Townley makes his way up to the podium for the first time this season. Ben, this track is probably known as one of the toughest ones on the entire venue. How aggressive do you have to be to make a pass happen on this track?
Well, I got a little too aggressive with Metcalfe on the first lap. You know, feel bad about that, but I had to get the pass done. You know, it's been a tough first few rounds for me, and I really wanted to get up front and, you know, get on the podium like I did today. And you know, I've had a lot of hard work from the Lucas Oil Troy Lee Designs Honda team, and they've really stepped it up and you know, taken me on this year just to do the outdoors, and this is the way to pay them back by being up here. So it's really cool to be up here on the podium, and just want to thank everyone who supported me through everything I've been through the last couple of years.
Congratulations on making it back up here on the box.
Yeah, Ben Townley, look at this. Even after some tough luck in the first moto, he's on the podium overall. His team manager, David Pingree, must have made him watch his Motocross 101 DVD and say, just don't fall, and you can make it on the podium. And Brett Metcalfe, another solid, consistent run, puts him in third, and some more tough luck for Josh Grant, who continues to show speed, but the results don't quite reflect how fast he is going. You can make the argument that Grant was the fastest rider here today.
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, but that Metcalfe consistently up on the podium. Let's go back down to Aaron.
Consistently up on the podium, probably the most consistent rider in the premier class. Brett, it seems like the rougher and tougher the track, the better you do. What is with that?
I don't really know. I prepare well for this kind of conditions. Don't really like it when it's smooth. But, you know, it's just to have a good bike underneath me. Geico Powersports Honda, Dunlop tires, Fox, Amsoil. And, you know, it's just, I really wanted to get third in that moto. I was pushing so hard. I had no tear-offs left. So I had to back off. I tried to get him at the end there, but, you know, it was a good race. I'm happy with my performance.
Barrett Jackson auction. Certainly one of the highlights of speed. Really, really cool, but now they're going to Orange County. So they're going to make some history there. That's tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Speed. Check it out. It's going to be some big deals and some really cool cars. Let's go to the series points here for the Lucas Oil AMA Pro Motocross Championship. It is tight behind Dungey, who has pulled out a big gap. Brett Metcalfe, via the consistency, now up to second in the series. But really, you go from second all the way back to seventh, and any of those guys could flip-flop every single week. Well, it was certainly fun to come out here and enjoy the sights and sounds of Colorado. But as far as Ryan Dungey is concerned, there's only one thing he wants to hear, and that's the cheers of the fans when he crosses the finish line. And he did it in first place again. For Aaron Bates and David Bailey, I'm Jason Wygant. Thanks for watching. Congratulations to Ryan Dungey, who wins again.